Intrigue Media. Get noticed, get found.
Well, James and I are going to take you through website content session 101 today. Good to go, Gary?
Yep.
Awesome. We got Gary on the camera with a stash. You can't see it in the video, but it is amazing. Take my word for it. Maybe I'll put in a screenshot afterward. But enough about Gary. Let's talk about websites. James and I are going to take you through kind of where we've come from, because I feel like the journey to how we got to where we are today with websites and how we get all the content and all the design and all the approval and all the logins and all the live dates is very important for everyone to understand exactly why we do what we do, the way we do it. And I think with that in mind, we can get into it. So, if you ever watched G.I. Joe, you might have heard this. If you're younger than me, you might not have, and that's okay. I'm embracing age. But the whole reason why we want to go through this today is so you guys in every single role in the company can understand how a great content session runs. Because if you know that, then you can create really clear and really great expectations with our clients, and then we can give them a great experience. At the end of the day, leaders provide clarity to everybody. We can't provide certainty, but we can provide clarity. And the more clarity we can provide to our clients on what we expect of them, the better we can do our jobs, and the better websites we can create, the better results we can get.
Cool. So this is Seth and I on our very first road trip content session out to Markham. I guess it was probably about 2 years ago now that we drove out together to Cabinet Magic, who one of our partners, Chris Keeley, it's his partner, and she wanted a logo made as well as a website design session. So we did that in about, I think, 2 hours with two of us. And it didn't go as bad as it probably could have, and one of the reasons why is because she came so prepared for the meeting, which is fantastic. But that being said, it was just two of us there, and so there was a lot of, there wasn't as many people in the room, so the communication was like just between Seth and I as well as the client, and it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great, so we wanted to find better ways to improve our content session meetings.
Yeah, and I drove, so that's me. Yeah, I guess that's one piece too that's really abnormal, was the amount of clarity that Kim, our client, gave us going into that meeting. She had a very, very specific idea of what she wanted in her website. She had a very, very concrete idea of what she wanted in her logo, and I think that's what enabled that to work. But most of our clients don't have that type of clarity coming into something, and that's why we have the sessions that we have today. So. In our sessions today, we've got a couple people in different roles. We've got the client, we've got developers, we've got copywriters, and we've got our designers as well. And we have one of each role, and then we have the client and however many people they bring with us. And the reason why we do that is because we got feedback from our clients that they were frustrated because they had to answer the same questions over and over again, talking to different team members, and they felt like that wasn't a good way for us to value their time as clients. And then the other piece with that was there was disconnects happening along the way in terms of things we promised. So they would meet with, let's say, me, the developer, and they would meet with James, the designer, and we'd have different conversations and stuff would come out of it. And James and I, while we communicate very well, we don't communicate perfectly, and stuff would get dropped and slip through the cracks, and then the clients would see their live website and they'd be like, well, why isn't this on there? And then they have a bad impression of the quality of the work that we do. So getting everybody in the same room together really helps literally getting us all on the same page. And the other thing that really has come out of it, which I didn't expect at first, and I should have expected it, but I didn't, was the collaboration that happens between our team members. You guys are all awesome, and you have much better ideas than me, like 99% of the time. So to bring that into an environment where we're all working collaboratively on something is really cool.
Sweet. So the goals for the meeting, so like Seth mentioned, there are going to be 4 people in the session. So the developer, the copywriter, the designer, and the client. So the main goal is to gather all the content as well as design that you need to move forward. It typically takes about 3 hours, and the session starts with the developer, and the developer will spend, typically each person has about an hour for each portion of their session. And it starts with the developer, and the developer builds a sitemap that can be provided by the client, but typically we can sort out a sitemap that we think will work best for them. So the developer's responsibilities are to build out a sitemap and lay out the website so that we can start to build pages. The copywriter's responsibility is to gather either the existing copy that's already on their website if they have one, or get information to feel comfortable to fill those pages with copy. And that can only be done once the what was I just talking about? Sitemap has been made. Thank you. So there's a specific order that we have to do that in. And then the designer's responsibilities are to pick the brains of the client in order to understand what they'd like to see visually on their website. And this can be done easier when the client is prepped and the expectations are set up front as to what to bring to the session. So if it's imagery, logos, ideas, other websites that they like. And the client's responsibilities are to come with everything that we have set expectations for. So again, images, logins, logos, etc.
Sweet. And one piece that actually we're going to start doing a little more concretely in our content sessions in the sitemap component is working with our clients to create even a simple funnel for how we want people to actually go through their website. So if somebody lands on a homepage or lands somewhere on their website, what is the next step that we can call them to act in our call to action? So is it download an ebook? Is it contact us for a demo or contact us for a meeting or something like that? Whatever that next step is, we have to figure out what it is and then start building our websites that way. That way we can get more conversions. Because at the end of the day, nobody pays us, well I would say 99% of our clients probably don't pay us for a website, they pay us for what they can get out of a website, and the results are really all that matters. So the more we can do that in our content sessions, the better effective our websites will be. So what makes this easier? Who likes minty breath? That has nothing to do with what we're talking about, except for the fact that it's called scope. So we did something in the last couple months, we call it a website scoping session. So we get together with the client and we wash each other's mouths. And then after that's done, we actually talk about their websites. It's been really handy, I think, so far in terms of getting really clear ideas of the investment we need. Because I realized a couple months ago that the reason why the websites coming through in the maps didn't have enough investment is because I wasn't telling the team how much it really cost to do this stuff. So this has been a direct takeaway from that feedback. And so now we meet with the clients who have a website as a part of their marketing action plan before we present the plan to them, and then we go over a bunch of questions that we developed to help understand exactly what they're seeing. Because everybody, when they look at websites, they all have a different idea, and it's on us to extract that from their brain and put it into the marketing action plan. So doing this up front gives us a clear idea of what investment we're going to need and any special bells and whistles that they're going to need. We had, I think one of the biggest wins with it was we did it for a realtor that Paul brought in, and we were able to scope out some complex integrations with housing listings on the MLS website, so we could pull housing listings into their website. We've never done it before, and we figured out that based on that scope and the questions that they had, we were able to go and test it out using the investment from the map and create a very concrete idea of the time we would need to build that website if they chose to move forward with it. They didn't move forward with it, but it was nice that we weren't just going in there like we used to do it and saying, it might take me this much time, and then eating any costs that we incurred afterward because we didn't scope it right. So the scoping session, I think, has been a big win, and it's a standard part of our website map creation process.
One of the ways, or I guess right after the scoping session, one of the ways that the content session can run more smoothly is to let the client know what to bring to the session. I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. Hopefully they don't have a lot of baggage with them. But the most important pieces are any imagery that they'd like to see on the website. This is really important for e-commerce websites. Their logo, as well as their logins or any login information that they may have in order to help us kind of run through this process smoothly.
Awesome. Oops. There we go. Some of our clients have actually brought in sitemaps. It's not required, but it typically makes their life easier. We had a website session with Scott from Kits for Kids, and he brought in a very clear idea layout. It didn't look exactly like this, but we were able to get this very quickly from it, and it probably saved us about 45 minutes in the meeting. His website hasn't gone live yet for other reasons, because we haven't created clear expectations in other areas, but this gave us a great start in the session. So if you know when you're working with the client, when you're building the map, if you have an idea of what their website is going to look like in terms of a sitemap layout, where all the pages are going to be and what pages are needed, if you can fill that out in the marketing action plan, it saves us 45 minutes times 3 team members, ish. So this is one piece that can make the session go a lot easier, and when the client comes prepared like this, or even if we've helped them prepare prior to that session with creating this for them, it just gives us a clear idea of what we're actually going to be working on ahead of time and in the session.
Awesome. So again, I think I mentioned earlier, getting login information is the final piece of what to bring.
Did you say it's the final brick?
The final brick, maybe. Yeah, the final brick to the building. I'll take that. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward.
And this is something that we're going to start doing that we haven't been doing, and I think this, what I'm about to talk about, is going to be the answer for a lot of the struggles we've had with our clients doing things that we didn't tell them they couldn't do. So, has anybody seen Interstellar here? Okay, I'm not going to spoil the movie if you haven't seen it. There's a character named Murph, and one of the themes in the movie is Murphy's Laws. So what can happen will happen. It's Matthew McConaughey crying about what can happen will happen. I think the version of this for us is what we don't tell our clients they can't do, they will do every time until we tell them to stop doing it because they can't do it. And that all comes down to us creating clear expectations. I find that we've had a bunch of projects go out of scope in bigger and smaller ways. One of the biggest ones was the website we built, the e-commerce soccer cards website we built over the summer. And I was 60 hours over on my budgeted time. Not fired, I'm still here. Everyone's got my back. But it all came down to me deciding that I wanted to move forward to the next step before I had everything from the client that I needed. And I didn't tell him that I won't do anything until I've got everything from you. And as much as it is hard to do that, and as much as we don't want to say that to our clients and it can be awkward, I think when we can do that, we can get really clear ideas of what's involved in work, and then we can create really clear expectations as to what's going to happen next. So until we have all the content and all the design approved and every single image that's going to go on your website, we will not go into development. But when that happens, we're going to go into development, and then the next meeting we'll meet with you is to review. And then if there's any tweaks, we'll get all the tweaks from you, and once we have every single item for all the tweaks, we'll go ahead and make it, give you a timeline. And then we're able to manage our time a lot better, and we're not caught in this back and forth loop that has happened on many of our websites.
And just for the record, the conversation isn't awkward if you don't make it awkward. The way you just described it, there's no awkwardness associated to that. We build websites and content and imagery as our daily behavior and job. We help clients, dozens, hundreds. It's what we do every day. They don't understand the process. So giving them clarity, helping them through the process as a service to them, saying like, if we move forward without you giving us every final approval, you're not going to be happy. And we know that from experience. So this is the way we do things for your service. And that's the truth. It's awkward only when we don't do it at the beginning and then we try to go back and do it again. We put it up front. This is the way it works. We get usually really good feedback.
Cool. Yeah, and I think you're right. That's probably where the awkwardness comes from.
It's all good though. I mean, and you've been great at it.
Thank you. I had to do it the other day. I had to swallow a frog. I had to call Scott from Kits for Kids because we've had 2 email threads going over the last week, and he sent us over 12 pages of changes to his website, and it's a lot. And we never told him that he couldn't do that. So naturally, he's doing it, right? In line with Murphy's Law of website changes. I think that's what it's called. And so I got on the phone with him on Monday. He had sent over something. I reviewed it all, and there were some questions that I had. So I had drafted up this giant email I was going to send back to him. But I knew that if I was in the issues, I'd be like, why is this guy sending me a giant email and like really like grinding my gears and asking me for all these nitty-gritty little details that he doesn't know that he has to provide. So I called him before I sent it. I was like, Scott, I just wanted to let you know I received the email. We're happy to make these changes for you. And then he launched into this little bit about how he's like, he really wants to wow his clients. And I'm like, I think that's great. I think that it's awesome that you have the mentality of your website is the first impression that you make on people. And we want to do everything we can to help you make that great first impression. And that kind of approach, nobody is using that approach that I've met at least. So I said that, and then afterward, I was like, Scott, we've got to get through all this stuff. We won't move forward with making any of these changes until we have everything from you. That way we can go through with it all and take it live. So with that being said, are you okay with getting us all the information we need for all these items? And I said, yeah, of course. And then we can go live with it. Is that fair? Yes. And so then I got the approval we needed. He was getting really detailed on not loving a couple of the pages on his website, but I got him to agree to the fact that we can meet after and we can review those pages and figure out what's involved with us making those pages awesome. So we went back to the original scope of the website because those pages that we've been kind of going back and forth on weren't part of the original scope. And we've created potentially an upserve opportunity for us to help serve Scott better and create a better experience for his users and get him better results that'll happen after the fact that we might be able to get paid for. So there's just a lot of wins because the project's moving forward. It's a win for Intrigue, it's a win for Scott. And it all comes down to using this type of approach. And I had to call him yesterday too because we had another conversation, but I think after the second time, I think it hopefully is clear, and the next step is we booked a meeting for Scott to review with Vanessa and Mike over the phone the two giant lists of changes.
Does anyone have any questions?
When I saw that, I was like, chilling. I was like, James, we gotta use this image. If you don't know who Ralph Wiggum is, then it probably means nothing.
I have a question. Do we have a list that itemizes what the client should bring to a content session that we can provide them with?
Yes.
Yes.
It's actually up on my desk. I'll go grab it right now.
Awesome. Okay, good.
I'll grab it after any other questions. Or actually, there.
Or if it might be online if you have it, obviously. Like,
Yeah, it's not online yet.
Okay.
It will be eventually.
Okay,
Probably.
perfect.
But right now we've got it. Nicole's been making the final touches on it, and she's working. So we have the front page of it now, and Nicole's working on the back page, and we're going to include it in our client packages when they get the chocolate bar and their first invoice as a piece to just kind of let them know what to expect.
Right.
And it's also really important too that when you ask somebody for an FTP login, they're like, yeah, I'll get back to you. Because they don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And they might feel stupid. There was a story about this guy who was buying radio ad space, and this radio guy came in and was talking to him about spots and buying spots. And he didn't want to ask him what a spot was, because this guy came in and was just telling me, you got these kind of spots, you got these spots, and he's just like, he was thinking about measles and chicken pox and Dalmatians, and he's like, I didn't know what spots was, so I just told him to leave. I was like, yeah, no, it's good, we're not interested. He had no idea what he was talking about. So sometimes when we get all caught up on our curse of knowledge and product knowledge, and we're asking people for this information, expecting them to understand this stuff, they start to feel not okay, and they won't talk to us about it because they are not okay about it. So it's really important that we say, do you know what FTP is? Because if you don't, you're not alone. There's lots of people that don't understand this stuff. Do you have access to the back end of your content management system? Do you know what kind of platform your website's on? They're just like, my website's on a platform? You really got to break down that stuff and just be like, hey, we're going to walk you through this. You know, we've done this like dozens of times, and it's not going to be too difficult, but there might be some painful spots, but we'll get you through it. And that's, it was interesting. Yesterday at the trade show, we were talking about how we really have a good sense of why we do what we do. We really got a good sense of how we do what we do, and we really don't know what we're doing every day. And trying to find out what's the big thing that's going to get Intrigue to really go across the country. But I think that really what we do every day is we take care of people. And we'll find the services that are going to back that kind of stuff up. But all this presentation is around creating clear expectations and communication and a good collaborative working experience with our clients. I mean, sure, it's websites. That's the thing that's coming from, that's the product at the end of it all. But really, this is just a process for taking care of people, which is just great. You guys did a great job.
Cool. Thank you.
One more piece, if a question I was hoping someone would ask is who books the content session?
Who books the content session?
That's a great
Who books
question.
the content
Seth.
session?
Not a plant.
The content session is booked by, well, it can be booked a couple of ways. So after the MAP meetings are like they're super long, so not everyone remembers to book a content session or has the availability to book a content session after a MAP meeting. So there will be an action item given out to either the designer, the copywriter, or the developer to book the session. And then if they're having a hard time booking the session, then it's kind of, it's on all of us, kind of the same way we gather content from our clients to all pitch in and try to help out to book this session, but someone will have an action item for it.
Great. Cool. One other piece I wanted to add to what Rob was saying. Rob said when he's talking to clients about FTP logins and all that technical jazz, one thing I ask people, or I always let people know, I've got some technical questions. You may not know the answer. If not, that's okay. And typically, they always say, hey, "What's that?" Like, okay, well, you don't know what that is. That just means you're normal, and that's the phrase I use. Because normal people don't know what an FTP is. I didn't even really know what an FTP was, and I used it for like 2 years before I really knew what it was. I'm sure like half the people in this room have no idea what it really is, and that's okay. So it really just means that you're normal if you don't know what it is. It's okay to say that.
So true.
FTP.
And the biggest thing too with like technical logins, especially if people don't have them, it's like, well, if you email somebody that's been doing this for you and CC me on it, I will take it off your plate and make sure it gets taken care of for you. And then they're like, oh, good, that's nice. I don't have to deal with this. And then you can go so far as say, well, you know, do you have the email address? Are you in front of a computer? My email address is, feel free to write, this is what I need. These guys from Intrig are going to help take care of it, and like have them do it. And giving them that type of clarity and expectations on getting it done. And then they don't have something to go do, which will never get done. Yeah. This stuff is just so important for the client experience, and it seems so interesting that they're like, you know, I want my website tomorrow, but I'm not going to take 2 to 5 minutes to find login information, and I'll procrastinate 2 to 3 weeks to get it to you, and why is my website done? So there's this, we all assume we work in a rational world, and we don't. So anything we can do to help people get along the path is in our best interest. Cool. Great job, guys.
Intrigue Media. Get noticed, get found.